All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Bitcoin as always. I want to talk about whether it's really early or not, and I think it's just a matter of perspective. I also want to talk a little bit about these cycle lows, okay? Because cycle lows are doing what they're supposed to do, okay? People have had the entirety of this cycle, right? All of this to get a position, and of course they did what any noob does. They showed up here, they bought this, and now they're suffering for it, okay? You don't get to show up late to the party and still have your choice at the buffet. So, cycle lows are doing what they're supposed to do. They are flushing, they are resetting the sentiment. Perfect touch so far, and if we can get a reversal and a breakout, then we could probably confirm this. Now, maybe there is more downside to come, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But first I want to go on this little detour and talk about, are we actually early here? Okay, because I see lots of narrative, I see lots of noobs, and I see lots of terrible ideas. These narratives include, but are not limited to, the ETFs are here, we're never going to have another dip, right? The noobs keep telling me that TA is going to stop working, that cycles won't work, that BlackRock won't allow a drawdown bigger than 15 or 20%, okay? There's a lot of terrible ideas and narratives floating around out there. And you know what I was thinking would make absolute sense, since there's a whole heap of people out there convinced we're never getting another dip, we're never getting another bear market, we're never getting another cycle. You know what makes the most amount of sense, right? Let's puke this thing all the way down 30 or 40%, okay? That to me, this is how you harm the most amount of participants. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get this. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if this were to happen, okay, perhaps if we were to come all the way down to this second angle of attack that I've got in red, number one, we would still be maintaining bullish structure. If I zoom out, you'll see that we've got our first angle at the bottom in red, okay, that'd be this one. And then our second angle right here we'd be coming in for a retest of that angle, right? So that's the first thing. If we did that, it actually wouldn't be anything too concerning. It would still be maintaining bullish structure. It would also be much more in proportion for setting up that third angle into the blow off top. So we'd have this nice big base built out, okay, at the bottom angle. If we come back and retested this, it would look a lot more like this, right? And then we would have a nice big second angle built out, ready for probably one final back test, and then we would set that third and final blow off top. So it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. Now, again, I am not calling for this. I'm not saying we are going to get this, but I'm just saying, let's assume for the moment we do get this violent shakeout, okay? We do get, what would that be, top to bottom? That would be somewhere in the neighborhood of, yeah, close to 40%, right? Let's say we got that. By the time we bounced out and started to move higher again, we'd be able to look left, right? We'd be able to look back at this current moment in time and say, how obvious was that, right? That was so obvious because everyone is sat here going, we're never going to have a bear market, no more cycles, right? TA is going to stop working. And, you know, all of these rubbish narratives, like I was saying, all these really bad ideas that just show the inexperience of people in a market. If you've been here for more than one cycle, you know full well we could see dips over 20%, no problem. If you understand how ETFs work, you know full well they don't care, okay? They will let this thing draw down minus 95% if there's no people to come in and bid it up, right? They'll do whatever they want, okay? Their job is not to support price from the ETFs. Their job is to just, when you come and buy, they buy, and then when you show up and sell, their job is to go into the market and sell, right? That's it. That's what they do. They track the price of Bitcoin based on the supply and demand, nothing else. So again, let me be really clear, not calling for this, but if it does happen, we will be able to look back and say, well, that makes perfect sense. And for everyone that was touting all this nonsense about there's never going to be a bear market, there's never going to be a dip, there's never going to be any more cycles, well, welcome to Bitcoin, right? So this is certainly something I don't want to see, but I wouldn't be surprised. As always, open to everything, right? Considering everything. For now, though, we are, objectively speaking, into support, right? We're into the blue. We're in that timing window to see a swing. And if we do get a nice push off of the blue support and a breakout of the downward sloping blue resistance line, then we will be able to confirm this as a cycle low. And I will be adding positions as I've been consistent in saying I'm looking to do so. So anyway, I didn't mean to speak that much about Bitcoin. Let's come back here. The point I was trying to make is there's a lot of narrative, a lot of noobs, right? A lot of terrible ideas, and there's nothing quite like a cycle low to shake these people up, okay? To make them question their entire reality. This is what Bitcoin loves to do. So going back to the original question, are we actually early? Is it really early? And to that I say, it really is entirely down to your time horizon, okay? Let's differentiate between the short and the long term. In the shorter to medium term, I am looking for more downside because we are due a cycle low. That's in the very immediate term. In the more medium term, let's say, as you know, if you've been here before, I am looking for a left translated cycle top. Now, am I open to seeing a right translated? Yes. Am I open to seeing a double pump type super cycle? Yes, I'm open to everything. But as has been my base case is that There's not much time left in this cycle, and I even put out a video yesterday or the day before that literally said, I don't think there's much time left, and here's all the reasons why. But for some reason, when I put out content like this, people get really rubbed up the wrong way. They go, you said no one's bullish enough. You said $1 million a coin. Yes, I did. And I still believe that in the long term, okay? But the path to get there is not going to be a straight line. I do not think we go straight to $1 million this cycle. I hate to break it to you. I just don't think that's how this game is going to be played. So again, is it early to buy Bitcoin? The way I like to think about this is if you think that Bitcoin will die soon, then it's pretty late. If you think that essentially we've reached almost the peak of adoption, and if you think that we're not going to be here in 50 years' time, okay, then yeah, you could make the argument that we are quite late to the party. But if you think Bitcoin is still going to be a thing in 50 years' time, then I would make the argument we are still very, very early. I can also look at a number of things with you and just point at them and say, to me, it still looks like we're quite early, okay? Despite all the narrative out there, despite all the fear, if we just look at the number of wallets as a percentage of the population, how many people actually use Bitcoin, right? How many wallets have we got? And the answer is we've got more than 460 million wallets. But number one, most people have more than one wallet address, okay? Now, number two, only 37% are considered economically relevant, meaning that there are plenty of people out there with a few quids worth or a few bucks worth of Bitcoin in a wallet somewhere. But let's just be ultra conservative about this and take the 460 million number. Now, of course, the real world number of users is significantly below that. I'm sure anyone that actually has any significant holding of Bitcoin will have at least 5 wallet addresses, right? But anyway, let's just assume that 460 million is the number, okay? Ultra conservative. When you divide that by 8.5 billion, what do we get? Okay, 5% of the population. We're at 5% adoption at the most conservative. And if we use the 37% there, economically relevant, okay, and do 37% of this, then what do we get? About 1.85% of the planet actually using Bitcoin. So for me, it is hard to make the argument that if we use the number of wallets as an idea, right, for how adopted this technology is, 5% conservatively, in the most conservative way of doing it, to me, that's pretty early. If we're the first 5% of people to grab hold of this technology and actually understand it, I think we are well ahead of the curve. These are the adoption curves in technologies in the US from 1900 to present, okay? And you can see here, each one of these down here corresponds to one of these colors. Bitcoin is barely getting started, If I grab me a straight line and try to get right in the middle here for 10%, something like this, and then also go halfway between there to find that conservative 5% estimate, okay, you can see we are barely scratching the surface of this, okay? Potentially, this thing has a long way to go. Now, how high up it goes, we could debate about all day, okay? Does it only get to up here, 20%, and then stall out and die? Maybe, okay? One day at a time. But for now, assuming we make just one assumption, and that is that Bitcoin will continue to be adopted at some rate, then there is a lot of upside here walking out into the future. Another nice way to look at this is the technology adoption S-curve. Okay, if I add a line in here for you that approximates the 5%, okay, the halfway point between 0 and 10%, you can see we are barely into the accelerated part of the S-curve of adoption. Now again, if this is anywhere close to accurate, if we are anywhere close to this neighborhood here, there should be plenty of adoption left. And again, I would make the argument, I still think we are quite early. As I was saying in that Bitcoin power law video I made, the human brain is not well suited to comprehend exponential or logarithmic adoption. But hopefully you can see, based on just these two simple metrics that I've shown you so far, there may well be continued upside for many years to come. Furthermore, we also have things like the power law and the stock to flow model. Like I was saying, I put out a video a couple of days ago about Bitcoin's power law, and the power law, long story short, tells us we could expect somewhere in the neighborhood of 200K by the end of next year-ish, give or take a little bit, okay? So that's not too bad. The power law also tells us we can expect $4.5 million per coin walking forward 15 years into the future. Again, that's not bad. That represents a 64x, and if my mental maths is correct, we're looking at something like a 15.5K investment today would be worth $1 million 15 years out into the future. Okay, that's not bad, in my humble opinion. That is not bad. If you can build a 15K position today and we do indeed do a 64x over the next decade and a half, you could be a millionaire. Is it the same million in today's dollar value? Probably not, but don't let that take away from my point. We also have the Plan B stock to flow model. It's far beyond the remit of today's episode to discuss how broken or valid or invalid these models are. Okay, all models are broken, I understand that. I'm just pointing at things and saying, if we make some assumptions, and of course there are plenty of assumptions that need to be made, okay, and we know all models are broken, yes, but as I showed you with the power law, if we're anywhere close to that, 64x over a decade and a half, not bad. And in terms of the stock to flow model, we're looking at perhaps as high as 500k by the end of next year. Now again, is this going to play out? I don't know. But if it does, okay, pretty good things are happening to the price of Bitcoin walking forward. And it tells us by the time we're about 15 years into the future, in line with that power law model, we're actually going to be in the 8-figure neighborhood for Bitcoin. Again, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm not saying that we're not making a bunch of assumptions here. I'm not saying that a lot of stars don't have to align. But I'm just saying, if we assume that these are approximately accurate, then in theory, we are nowhere near late to the party at this point. I think it's also worth pointing out here that Bitcoin is more proven today than ever before. Okay, if you have fear, uncertainty down today, then you have no idea what it was like going back 5, 10 years ago. Today, there is more decentralization in the network. There is more hash rate than ever before. There is more decentralization in the nodes. There is more adoption, more wallet addresses. There is more education, more understanding, more accessibility to get hold of Bitcoin. It is starting to be accepted in places as a currency. The market cap has made its way up to around the $1 trillion region and likely has a bunch more left in it. It has survived many attacks in many different forms. It survived countries banning it, only to then force those countries to come ahead and unban it. It is banking the unbanked. And now we even have the largest financial institutions in the world offering spot Bitcoin ETFs. And we can see that demand is real on those since they are doing enormous numbers on a daily basis, hundreds of millions of dollars on a daily basis. So Bitcoin is more safe today than it ever has been. And with everything I've said so far, we haven't even touched on the fact that the ETFs are slowly working towards having a global allocation between 1% and 5% across absolutely everyone. We're talking about pension funds, family offices, sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, the absolute lot. If Bitcoin can hoover up somewhere in the neighborhood of 5% of global assets, then again, it speaks to us being far closer to the beginning than to the end of this. Not to mention, more and more companies are starting to add Bitcoin to their treasury. We're probably going to see governments do this. And again, we're making some assumptions. But if we can just assume any rate of adoption, okay, Bitcoin is going to continue to do Bitcoin things. Speaking of companies adding Bitcoin to the corporate treasury, MicroStrategy buying more Bitcoin, okay, continuing to lead the pack on this. We're also seeing the largest $1.4 trillion pension fund in Japan looking into adding Bitcoin to its portfolio. Again, we have to make some assumptions, but if we just make a couple and say that this is likely going to be a trend that continues over the coming decade or two, it's hard for me to make the argument that we are not indeed still quite early. I also wanted to pull up this chart and offer one other perspective in terms of being early to this. Okay, if you're familiar with my work, you will know I'm a cycle trader. You will know we've been talking about seeing these right translated cycles followed by potentially a left translated cycle. Now, the reason I bring this up, okay, is because we don't know whether or not we have 12-year cycles, right, comprised of 3 4-year cycles, and this right here was a 12-year cycle low, and we have another 12-year cycle ahead, or whether or not I am right in my speculation that Bitcoin is going to form part of a 16-year commodity cycle, and that is in line with my idea that we're going to go right, left translated into that 16-year cycle low. But it's also entirely possible that this is going to right translate, okay, and then we go left translated in the next one, giving us a larger 20-year cycle. One of you smart guys in the comments actually did the maths on this and showed me that based on the divisibility of the 60-day cycles and the weekly count inside of a larger 20-year cycle actually fits a lot better. It's much more divisible into a 20-year cycle than it is into a 16-year cycle. So my point here is simply that we're so early in Bitcoin, we haven't even been able to determine what its long-term cycle count is yet. We haven't even got enough evidence in front of us to say that this thing undergoes 12, 16, 20, or even perhaps 24 or 28-year cycles. We don't know. Now, I've been speculating that we're going to get a 16-year cycle. I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to get. But again, if this thing right translates, then we have to be open to seeing the next 4-year cycle left translate and form part of a 20-year super cycle. Okay, so that's how early it is. We can't even tell what the longer term cycles are for sure yet. So I want to come back here and finish this segment just by quickly saying that there is always a lot of narrative, right? There's always a lot of reason to append a narrative to the cycles. But this is why cycles are so powerful. Cycles are in control. Cycles drive the market, and the market appends a narrative to justify the price action seen in the cycle. So are we actually early? I think we are. Based on everything I've shown you today, I think we are. Is it easy to append a narrative and find excuses to say that we're not early? Yes, of course it is. Is it entirely down to your time horizon? Yes, of course it is. If you are looking in the short term, can Bitcoin top out in the next few months and then enter a bear market? Yeah, then it is in fact late to the cycle, right? It's late in this current cycle potentially. We could be seeing a left translated cycle top and an extended bear market decline. But in the longer term, okay, if we're believing that Bitcoin is going to be around in 10, 20, 50 years time, then assuming any rate of adoption at all, assuming any increase in liquidity at all, we should see Bitcoin continue higher over the long term. One thing we are going to find out soon though is how diamond or paperish the hands of the ETF holders are, okay? Are these Bitcoin ETF holders going to be able to stomach the volatility that Bitcoiners are used to seeing and sitting through? Okay, we're going to find out. Are they going to sit through this, or is this going to drive some sort of panic to a much lower down number? So like I was saying, we're going to get to find out, right? We're going to get to find out if we have found a cycle low, we're going to bounce up, confirm it, and then crack on out of here, or whether or not these ETF holders are not ready to be part of the group of Bitcoin savages that are used to stomaching major volatility. Are we going to see them puke a bunch of positions? Are we going to see that bigger, wider decline? Something like this. That's to be determined. As ever, we take it one day at a time. We'll see what the market can give. Still pushing these two positions and still looking to add if I get the opportunity and a confirmation of a new daily cycle. As per the video yesterday, I was talking about taking a partial profit from Coinbase and MicroStrategy since we violated this steep upward sloping blue support line, and notified the members I have indeed taken a partial profit off Coinbase and off of MicroStrategy. So looking to see if we can get, in the best case scenario, back down here. That'd be really nice. A touch of this in both cases, and I'll be looking to add back on a confirmation of a cycle low and a trend line break. For now though, sitting out of the way, seeing what can happen. If we get a really clear signal, like for example, if this thing were to bounce up here, hit resistance and then roll over, at this rollover, I'd be thinking about taking a bit more off and then looking to re-enter the whole thing lower down. For now though, happy that I paid myself. Feels really, really good. If I zoom all the way out, right? If I zoom all the way out, no matter what happens now, I'm in a good position. I've got loads of dry powder ready to take advantage of this dip. If we do get one of those big extended 40% dips, then that would be really nice, right? Not saying we will, but if we did, I've got plenty of dry powder ready to hoover that up should it occur. If we bounce from here, then happy days, we'll add it back and continue to move on knowing that I've taken some off, which feels actually very nice. Feels quite nice to take some off. Haven't been taking any off since the bear market lows, right? We've just been adding and adding and adding all the way up. Got a whole core position down here. Added supplemental trades the whole way up, so it feels nice to actually have paid myself something yesterday. Also going to be looking, see if we can add a riot position back and perhaps even a second Mara position. We'll see how it goes. Should be looking to see a gold cycle low show up any day now, so maybe we've got to put in a second drive lower and then out of there we can get a reversal. Let's see, or maybe FOMC today triggers gold to run to the upside. Either way, we are indeed in that timing window to see a bounce from gold, so we'll be looking to sort that out as well and possibly play any gold bounce by a breakout of the SILJ. I like this trend line on SILJ. This is absolutely massive, as you can see here. So we'll be looking perhaps to add a SILJ long if we can get a breakout. Like I said, gold cycle low is telling us to expect that in the not too distant future. I was talking yesterday about trying to get a direction from the Dow. I was saying we've got breakdown, retest, resumption of the red, but also we got breakout and perhaps a fail on the downward sloping white resistance line. For now though, looking like a nice strong push off. So if we can continue higher, we'll keep pushing this. If not, then expect this thing to turn down. That is what the cycles are telling us. But as it stands, you know, we need to get above here before we can confirm that we have not indeed got a short-term top. Get above here, and then we can talk about adjusting this to a right translated cycle. But either way, that cycle low now is only about 20 sessions away, okay? We're about halfway through this daily cycle, so it's going to be nice. We should get, if it continues to keep going up like this, then we should get quite a violent shakeout. That's what the cycles tell us. The later we go, the more violent it should be, because of course it is indeed a 6-monthly weekly cycle. So the last couple of things I wanted to point out is we will almost certainly see a pause at today's FOMC. The market is ready for that, so unless for some reason they hike or cut rates, I don't expect much change. But as always in FOMC, there probably will be some games, some volatility, some chop. As always, I tend not to trade on FOMC because of those reasons. I'd like to let the dust settle, and then we'll see how price reacts tomorrow. That would be the real tell. I pointed this out yesterday as well. I wanted to just quickly point at this. We have Bitcoin inside its daily cycle low timing window. Gold is also inside its daily cycle low timing window, and the S&P 500 is right around that half cycle low time frame. So a shakeout can continue for a few days, but a bounce should be coming soon across all of these. So maybe we get some FOMC shakeout as always, maybe we get some games, but the cycles tell us that a bounce is just around the corner. And the last couple of things, first of all, just so you know I'm not crazy, right? Here's Bob Lucas, the king of cycles, and you can see calling for a top in the not too distant future into that weekly cycle low. He calls it the 6 month cycle. We've also got the Bresser, I think he uses as double smooth stochastic, something like that. He uses this, and you can see that that is topping as well. So overall, okay, we're in that neighborhood to start to just think about seeing and being open to a pullback. I wonder if Bitcoin decouples or goes with it. And last but not least, I think we should be at 10K any moment now. When I checked this morning, we were at 9.99K. So absolutely wild time to be alive. We have indeed just done it. 10K right there. So thank you so much. We're going to be doing a 10K live stream, I guess, pretty soon. So look out for that. Thank you all so much for being here. And I can't wait to continue to see how this cycle plays out, see how this year goes. As I often say, okay, this year is going to be wild, and I'm sure we've seen nothing yet. So until next time, take care from me. I hope you're doing well in life. Until next time, cheers. Bye.